Hello, and welcome to Dark Hearts with Stacy Lee. I'm not going to admit to you how often I think about our food supply being poisoned. The fact that we go into the store and buy vegetables and fruit that are just laying out in the open, and then we take those things home and eat them, it kind of terrifies me if I stop and think about it too much. For the most part, we go about our daily lives and don't give a second thought to the food we're eating or who has prepared it or handled it. But once in a while, a crime occurs that sets us all on edge and reminds us just how tenuous our relationship with the food supply is. In 1984, in Osaka, Japan, one of the most notorious and sinister crime events to ever occur in that country or others took hold of the citizens. This is a story about kidnapping, ransom, a money drop on a moving train, taunting the police, and poisoning the food supply. This is the story of the monster with 21 faces. I'm your host, Stacy Lee. Let's begin. In the early 1980s, Japan was a land of prosperity and innovation, marked by economic growth and cultural vibrancy. However, beneath the surface of this thriving society, a shadow lurked, waiting to unleash chaos. The year was 1984, and the Glico Confectionery Company, known for its popular snacks and candies, was on the verge of becoming embroiled in one of the most notorious criminal cases in Japanese history. Glico makes those little snacks called Pocky, the little sticks with the frosting on the end. I'm going to do my best to pronounce these Japanese names, so please forgive me. I looked them up and I hope what the internet told me is right. Katsuhisa Ezaki, the president of Glico, was a visionary leader who had transformed the company into a household name. Pocky is a really beloved snack, and apparently it's in pretty much every Japanese household. That was kind of their flagship product, and the company grew. As the company celebrated its success, an ominous letter arrived at Glico's headquarters, warning them of impending doom. The letter was first dismissed as a prank, but it was actually a harbinger of the terror that was about to unfold. Days after the letter came, Katsuhisa Ezaki found out the local newspapers had also received threatening letters similar to the one he had received about poisoning the candy supply. Katsuhisa Ezaki was on edge, but he was still hopeful that the entire thing would blow over. Maybe this was just a very bad prank. But days later, on a warm summer evening, a series of crimes would shock the entire country. Around 9 o'clock in the evening on March 18th, 1984, two masked men used a stolen key to get into the home of Glico president Esaki. His 70-year-old mother, who lived with them, was tied up with a cut telephone line. The masked men said to her, "Be quiet, money is irrelevant." Katsuhisa's 35-year-old wife and his eldest daughter, who was 7 at the time, were also tied up in the home. The two men then went into Katsuhisa's bathroom, where he was in the tub with his two youngest children. They dragged the man from his tub, carried him outside naked, threw him into the back of a car, and sped off into the night. The news of Katsuhisa's kidnapping sent shockwaves across Japan. The media frenzy that followed was unprecedented, with headlines screaming about the monster with 21 faces. This name was derived from the letters sent to the police and the media. It was how the letters were signed. The letters taunted the police and signed off with a drawing of a smiley face with 21 distinct features. Letters containing threats then began arriving at Morinaga, a separate candy and snack company, and other companies got them as well. The letters demanded ransoms, they threatened to kidnap executives, and they threatened to poison Japan's candy supply. The monster with 21 faces communication was chillingly clever. They employed a mix of threats and psychological manipulation. The monster was demanding a ransom of 1 billion yen yen, which is about $9 million in today's money. And they also wanted 220 pounds of gold bullion. Now, why you would request gold, which is extremely heavy, I don't know, but this was the threat. This was the request. And it made it clear that whoever the monster was, it had no intention of simply releasing Ezaki. Instead, they continued threatening to poison Glico's products, creating a sense of paranoia among the public. In a bold move, the police decided to hold a press conference, appealing to the public for any information that might lead to Ezaki's release. Standing before the cameras, the police sergeant spoke with conviction, "We will not rest until we bring Ezaki home. We urge anyone with information to come forward. The safety of our community depends on it." The press conference caught the attention of the monster with 21 faces, who responded with a letter mocking the police's efforts. The monster declared that it would only release Ezaki if the public demanded it. The monster had turned the investigation into a spectacle. They wanted the public involved in this. They wanted to show their power, and they wanted to show that they could control the public. 3 days passed. There isn't a lot of detail on how this happened, but Ezaki was able to loosen the ropes that he was bound with and escape from his captors. Sadly, he was not able to identify them or provide the police with any clues as to who they were or why they were doing this. Then, on April 8th, 1984, a letter was sent to the police that said, "To Japanese police fools, are you stupid? There's so many of you. What on earth are you doing? If you are real pros, try catching me. There's too much handicap, so I will give you a hint. There's no fellows in the Ezaki's relatives. There's no fellows in Nishinomiya police. There's no fellows in Flood Fighting Corps." I think what that means is the people that were being threatened didn't have friends in the organization. The letter continued with clues. "Car I used is gray. Food was bought at Dai. If you want a new info, beg for it in the newspaper. After telling you all this, you should be able to catch me. If you don't, you are tax thieves. Shall I kidnap the head director of the prefectural police?" The letter was signed, "The Monster with 21 Faces." Now, this Monster with 21 Faces is a nod to a shape-shifting thief from the 1963 novel The Fiend with 20 Faces. Why the monster chose this moniker, we don't know. Detective Yoshino, a seasoned investigator with years of experience, was assigned to the case. As he sifted through the letters, he realized that the monster was not just a criminal, but a master manipulator who thrived on fear and chaos. The letters were carefully crafted, designed to provoke a reaction and to keep the public on edge. Days after the letter arrived, 6 cars parked outside the Glico factory were set on fire. Several of those cars exploded. People awoke to the news, and now there was a real sense of panic beginning to spread. Whoever the monster with 21 faces was, they didn't care about hurting or killing innocent people. That much was now clear. Yoshino assembled a team of skilled detectives who shared his determination to solve the case. They worked tirelessly, analyzing the letters for clues and trying to establish a connection between the monster and Glico. The group behind the monster, if it was more than one person, seemed to be well organized and intelligent, employing tactics that kept the police always a few steps behind. The police had pretty much decided this had to be more than one person, although I'm not really sure on how they came to that conclusion, because one of the letters said, "The car I used was gray," as if it was just one person. Some of this could also be getting lost in translation from Japanese to English. As the investigation progressed, the detectives uncovered a series of bizarre incidents that seemed linked to the monster's threats. Like I said, Glico's competitors were now receiving these similar letters, and the fear was spreading like wildfire. Amidst this growing panic, Yoshino and his team faced mounting pressure from both the media and the public. The police were heavily criticized for their inability to apprehend the monster, and the media sensationalized every development, further inflaming public fear. It's funny, if there's one thing that I see from country to country when I cover these cases, it's that the media is a problem everywhere. It's not just here. The media can be very helpful for a lot of things, but it can also incite panic. The monster thrived on this chaos, continuing to send letters that mocked the police's efforts. In mid-May, the monster with 21 faces claimed they'd placed several packs of cyanide-laced Glico candy on store shelves, and they were now sitting back watching to see who would purchase the products and die after eating them. Right after receiving the letter, Glico immediately recalled all of their products off the shelves. Not that anyone was going to eat them anyway, but they were not taking any chances. The company then had to lay off 1,000 workers, and within weeks, the loss was at $130 million. As the weeks turned into months, the impact of the monster's reign of terror was palpable. Supermarkets saw a decline in sales as customers hesitated to purchase any snack products. Parents became increasingly cautious, scrutinizing the snacks they bought for their children. The once carefree atmosphere of Osaka was now filled with whispers of fear and suspicion. Japan is a very, very safe society and a very foreign society to us Americans. You've probably heard of the kids in the yellow coats and the yellow hats. In Japan, you can send a child as young as like 4 years old out into the city by themselves. And if they have a yellow coat or yellow hat on, that means that the adults around the child are supposed to take care of that child. The fear that instills in me is insane, but it tells you just how different their society is. To literally send a child out into the city and expect everyone to take care of it is completely normal over there. In Norway and Denmark, when it's really cold, women will wrap their babies up in their strollers and leave the strollers with the baby in them on the sidewalk while they go into a cafe because they believe that the cold air is good for the baby's lungs. Nobody bothers the babies. Nobody takes the strollers. Nobody kidnaps the babies. You know I love my country. You know I'm a patriotic person, but damn, we get some stuff wrong. But the point is, it is very, very safe in Japan. These are very, very unusual events. You do not normally have to worry about your safety in Japan. In the heart of the city, these little groups of citizens that were concerned were starting to meet. And there was one particular woman who was very passionate. She had grown up on Glico snacks and she felt compelled to take action. She kind of began rallying the community to demand increased safety measures from the government and the police. In one clip that got picked up on the media, she said, "We cannot let fear dictate our lives. We must support one another and stand against this threat together." Her words resonated with many, and soon she became kind of a figurehead for the community's efforts to reclaim their sense of safety. This woman organized rallies, she encouraged citizens to come together and share their experiences, and they fostered a sense of unity in the face of fear. Detective Yoshino, on the other hand, was only feeling pressure. He felt pressure mounting as the public's patience was wearing thin. He gathered his team for an emergency meeting, urging them to focus on finding and analyzing any clues that might lead them to the monster. They believed that the monster had left hidden messages in their communications, and it was crucial to decipher them quickly. They thought there was some sort of code. Days turned into weeks, and despite their relentless efforts, the investigation stalled. The monster's ability to evade capture left the police frustrated and desperate. As the media frenzy reached a fever pitch, Yoshino knew that he had to take drastic measures. He felt that the key to the case lay in understanding the monster's motivations and the psychology behind their actions. So they brought in a psychologist to kind of profile, in a sense, the monster. The police were desperate and were forced to release to the public a major clue. This photograph that you're seeing is a still taken from a supermarket where police felt products had been tampered with. This image has become known as the videotaped man. People began coming forward after seeing this image, but because of the angle of the camera, there were no good shots of the man's face. And even if people thought they knew who the man was, there really was no way to verify it. Then on June 28th, 1984, an attempt was made to pay the monster off. The monster had sent a letter saying, "We want this much money at this place and time." So the police did a as the letter instructed. They took 50 million in used 10,000 yen bills. They were divided into white bags and placed in a white Toyota Corolla with a company driver. The car was parked outside Morinaga Foods Managing, which was a third company that had been receiving threatening letters. The monster stated that a call would come in at 8 o'clock. At 8:03 p.m., the phone rang. All the police heard on the other line was a pre-recorded message. It was a woman's voice playing into the receiver, and the recording said, "The back of the tourist information map at the city bus platform south of Mitsui Bank department store in Takatsui." So the police plan went into action. An investigator disguised himself as a food employee in a white blazer and hat and followed the monster's directions stated in the phone call. At the first stop, where she said on the back of the map, the investigator found an envelope taped to the back of the bus stop guide board the woman had mentioned in the phone call. And it said, "As soon as you read this, move immediately. Take this ticket and go to Takatsuki Station. Take the 819 Kyoto-bound train that stops at every station. It is a yellow train. Get on the second car from the back and sit on the left side marked with the circle. Either circle is fine. Ride the train alone. If the seats in the circled area are not available, say that you feel sick and have someone give up their seat. Sit on the side with the tracks and open the window so you can throw out the bag." The letter then had a diagram showing the rear train cars circled with spots indicating where to sit. The letter continued, "Once you see the 1 meter square white flag, throw the bag out the window." So the monster had placed a white flag at a certain place along the train tracks. "Go to Kyoto, and if there is no flag, then do it again. When you retry, contact me." The undercover officer that was disguised to look like a food employee was flanked with 7 additional undercover officers. However, they were late and they missed the 819 train. They got on the next train at 8:35 bound for Kyoto. In a huge debacle, it's unreal. The man carrying the money disobeyed the boarding instructions for some reason and went to the second to last train car, not the last. The police noticed 2 suspicious looking men on the train. One was trying to hide his face with a hat, and the other was toying with a large radio antenna as if he was trying to match the police frequencies to listen onto the police radio. As the investigator with the money got on the train to ride to the money drop point, he noticed a third suspicious man watching him. He was described as large, well-built, wearing sunglasses with his hair cut short but permed, so it was curly. The investigator said he had eyes like a fox. This undercover cop began following this man from train car to train car, but the man was able to run and elude the investigator. This person later became known as the Fox-Eyed Man. But because the cop had gotten onto the wrong train car, there was no flag, so there was no money drop. Why this investigator took it upon himself to get on the wrong train car, I don't know. I couldn't find information on that, but it seems insane. The monster made contact with the police again, and there was another attempt to drop the money in exchange for the monster stopping its reign of terror. The second money drop was supposed to happen at a company called House Food Corporation. Once again, at this drop, the police spotted the Fox-Eyed Man. And once again, he was able to elude them. It sounds a little Keystone Cops, I'm not going to lie. As part of this second money drop, the cops had to get on a train a second time. As the train passed the location indicated in the directions, there was no flag present the second time either. So for a second time, the money was not tossed from the window of the train. The investigator with the money got off the train and used a payphone to call headquarters, and the cops instructed him to return to Takatsuki Station on the next train. The day after the second failed drop, the monster with 21 faces began dangling more clues in front of the police. They had already claimed they should be looking for a gray vehicle. Well, now they started sending food wrappers from the stores where they had purchased food to feed to Ezaki when he was kidnapped. They'd mentioned the store before, but now they were sending the actual wrappers. There was a letter that came with the food wrappers, and it said, "Dear dumb police officers, don't tell a lie. All crimes begin with a lie, as we say in Japan. Don't you know that?" The police were humiliated and angry, and the public was on edge, but the end was nowhere in sight. Glico and Morinaga are firmly in the clutches of the monster with 21 faces. Both companies have basically shut down. No one is eating anything made by either of these manufacturers. In fact, even the companies that hadn't received threats were suffering. And then it got worse. A letter was sent to Osaka news agencies to be printed or read on air. It was addressed to moms of the nation. The monster was now speaking directly to the women of Osaka who did most of the shopping. This letter stated that 20 packages specifically of Morinaga candy had been laced with deadly sodium cyanide. Immediately, police were sent out to search stores in cities from Tokyo to Western Japan. They had already pulled most of the products off the shelves in Osaka, but this letter was addressed to moms of the nation. This meant all of Japan. So all the police throughout Japan were tasked with going through products in the supermarket and returning those products to the labs. What they found was horrifying. Over a dozen packages of Morinaga Choco Balls had been laced with cyanide. Packages of Morinaga's apple pies were poisoned as well. Along with the poison, the monster attached labels to the containers with the poisoned item, reading, "Danger contains toxins." I don't know if they were stickers. I don't know if they had written on the packages. I'm not really sure. I wish this case was better documented. The police were pulling everything they could find off of the shelves. The shelves in the supermarkets were basically bare. This was a massive undertaking for the police. Every cop in every town all throughout Japan had to take part of his shift to go and help at the supermarkets. The police continued to find poisoned products throughout February of 1985. This went on for a year. No one knows if the monster continued to place products or if the products were just getting to the stores and then continually being taken off of the shelves. When it was all said and done, 21 different products had been poisoned. I mean, we had the Tylenol scare here in America where like 2 bottles of Tylenol were poisoned. 21 different products, and we don't even know how many of those 21 different products. Individual products, so like this kind of chips, this kind of pies, this kind of cookies. 21 different products, and we don't know how many of each of those products were poisoned. This was a full-blown crisis. People in Japan were terrified to eat anything that they hadn't grown or harvested themselves. This is a really good reminder. One thing I learned in Mormonism that I will always back up as such a good teaching is to have a year's worth of food storage on hand. Mormons are taught to have a year's supply of food on hand in case like somebody gets laid off and you don't have the money to buy groceries, or in case of something like this. I pretty much could live without going to the grocery store for a year if I had to. I would hate it because I wouldn't have fresh vegetables, but my family and I would be able to survive. On November 1st, 1984, a letter arrived at the Tokyo home of Morinaga Dairy Vice President Mitsuo Yamada. It said, "To President, you saw our power, didn't you? If you disobey us, we will destroy your company. You will get killed. Decide whether you want to give us money or do you want to see your company destroyed. Tell us in the Mainichi newspaper on either the 5th or 6th of November. Use the missing persons. Use these words in reply. Hero, Morinaga, mother, police, bad friend, money, meal." Those were the keywords. As we said before, we want 200 million yen, the monster with 21 faces. Morinaga responded as directed. On November 6th, they placed a missing persons ad directed at the gang in the Mainichi newspaper morning edition that said, "Dear hero, bad friend disappeared. Come back. Warm meal is waiting. Mother Chiyoko." The police waited to see if this reply would generate some sort of new leads, but it did not. The monster did not reply. The months dragged on. The police finally stopped finding poisoned products, like I said, but it was February of 1985 by then. By that time, they were pretty sure they had all of the poisoned items off the shelves, but the police were getting nowhere. It's very different culturally over there, and that is something that is almost expected of someone who is given a lot of power and then they fail. And I think it's really sad. You can't blame one person for something like this. But again, I am not familiar with that culture. Maybe this is, the way it works. 5 days after that death, the monster sent what would be its final message to the media. It said, "Yamamoto of Shiga Prefecture Police died. How stupid of him. We've got no friends or secret hiding places in Shiga. It's Yoshino or Shikata who should have died. What have they been doing for as long as 1 year and 5 months? Don't let the bad guys like us get away with it. There are many more fools who want to copy us. No career Yamamoto died like a man, so we decided to give our condolence. We decided to forget about torturing food-making companies. If anyone blackmails any of the food-making companies, it's not us, but someone copying us. We are bad guys. That means we've got more to do other than bullying companies. It's fun to lead a bad man's life." Signed, the monster with 21 faces. The monster was never heard from again. The statute of limitations for kidnapping Ezaki ran out in June of 1995. No arrests have ever been made. To this day, we do not know who is responsible for one of the worst cases of public panic and food poisoning in the history of the world. As the years continued to unfold, the legacy of the monster with 21 faces remained etched in the fabric of Japanese society. The events had prompted significant changes in corporate security measures and community outreach programs, ensuring that the lessons learned would not be forgotten. The woman who promoted community unity flourished. She established a nonprofit organization that focused on safety, education, and community engagement. Her passion inspired many, and the organization grew, providing resources and support to neighborhoods across Osaka. The story of the monster with 21 faces served as a reminder that fear could be conquered and trust could be rebuilt. The community had learned to stand together, proving that even in the face of all of this darkness, hope could prevail. The story of the monster with 21 faces would be recounted for generations, not only as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can emerge in a society, but also as a testament to the strength of the human spirit. The story would be taught in schools, shared in documentaries, and discussed in community gatherings, ensuring that the lessons learned would never be forgotten. Thank you for joining me today on Dark Hearts with Stacy Lee. Please hit the like button if you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more from me. It really does help. I've got 2 podcasts. This one is Dining with Death. It's an archival series of the old videos I posted on YouTube years ago. It's just the audio taken from those videos. But this is the new podcast, Dark Hearts with Stacy Lee. I post brand new episodes every Monday and every Wednesday, and there will be some exclusive stories here, stories that you will not see here on YouTube. If you haven't already, would you mind going and rating my podcasts? That would be amazing. Both podcasts are on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. You can also join my Patreon. Some of you give a few dollars a month to help me keep the episodes coming, and that is greatly appreciated. You can find me on Patreon under Dark Hearts with Stacy Lee, and you can also be part of our fundraiser. You don't have to join Patreon to be part of the fundraiser. There's a video on my channel. This is the thumbnail. It's a few minutes long. You can watch it and find out everything our amazing community is doing to potentially solve a cold case. I sure appreciate you. I know you guys have so many options. There's so much true crime out there. There are so many podcasts, so many YouTube channels. And the fact that you spend a little bit of time with me, it just means the world to me. Stay safe, my friends, and be kind to each other. And I will see you next time on Dark Hearts with Stacy Lee. Bye.